I hope you are having a great day. Welcome to our podcast of Covenant Cuisine. Um, I hope that everything that you put your hands to in the will of God is prosperous for you. I'm going to talk a little bit today about Jeremiah 29:11 and how a lot of us know the scripture about how He knows the plans that He has for us. And so I'll just go ahead and quote Jeremiah 29:11. I'm quoting it from the King James Version. And it says, "For I know the thoughts I have towards you, thoughts of peace, not of evil, to give you an expected end." And so I think a lot of us hear that scripture and it's been like played over in our heads or on signs or, social media memes and all of that stuff. And sometimes we get things just it's just such a habit that we really don't begin to like think on those things or really take a lot of validity in them because it's familiar. And so when I take and reflect on that, um, for me, it takes a little bit different type of hit, I guess, because I think of things that were with me from a time I was a child, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But I know a lot of us tend to minimize your gifting. And it's not bragging to be like, oh, yes, I can, like for me, I play a guitar, probably not the best guitar player in the whole wide world. I can guarantee that. And I play some piano and I play drums, and I'm not the best at any of those. But honestly and truly, if you want to be the best of the best, that really is in the eye of a beholder. So you can have different, and I won't name their names, but you can have different musicians that are, you know, different artists or whatever, and they, I can even say some of the great artists that have been gone, or some of the opera singers and some of the people who play, Beethoven or whatever. You can have all of that talent and really still have I'm not that good, or I can, we could always be better at what we do. That's true. Um, but if we're giving it everything that we have, I think in my heart, that's what is proof in the pudding. And so I practice a lot on the guitar. Do I practice every day? No. Should I? Yeah, probably. But I think that if you're making that effort, God's going to bless those efforts. And so we a lot of times throw off on ourselves because if we're not the best, we just don't want to do it. And I have a lot of that in me. Like I'm a perfectionist about things and I want to have the best of the best as far as my talent and work. And if I have to like lead song service, I try to get there early and practice what I'm going to do even just before because I want to know what I've got in front of me. Um, when I was drumming for the church and different churches, I practiced that and I practiced it and I would have them make me a recording of the songs that they knew that they were going to do or that they done on a frequent basis. And I would go home and I would practice with that because I really wanted to up my game in that. And so I know that when I was for myself, my personal story, I remember being a little girl and I had a minister over me and he said, "You're going to lay hands on the sick and they're going to recover. And God has blessed your hands. You have healing in your hands." And as a little girl, I grew up in church and I thought, um, in my head as a little kid, I would see people coming through the prayer line and we would see crippled people walking and we would see blind eyes open. And I have actually seen a lot of those things. Um, One of the people that we're under as far as our fellowship um, was healed miraculously after 22 and a half years in a wheelchair with a severed spinal cord. And so, and it even made like the big news channels. But even then, if she would have taken the accident that she had and let that define her life and just succumb to well, I have this injury, I'm never going to walk again, even though the doctors were telling her that she would never walk again, she believed in her heart that God had other plans. And she had had word that God had other plans for her. And so she stuck to those words and to that promise and was able to be healed in a healing service that she didn't even go to for a healing service. Actually, she said if she'd have known it was a healing service, she would never have even have went because she was tired of being pulled up out of the wheelchair, making a spectacle of, and in her mind's eye, at a service because everybody always wants to pull somebody up out of the wheelchair and make them walk. Well, the truth is God has plans for you. I don't know what your talent is. I don't know what your love and your desire is. I don't know any of that about you, but God knows that about you. And He, I believe, gives us talent. So when I was a little girl, I was ministered in that way. I had this idea of being, laying hands on the sick in a prayer line or at church. And that's all great. I don't take away from that. A lot of people have been healed in that. I also know that as a little girl, I was an extreme skinophobic kind of person. I didn't like people touching me at all. I didn't like feet touching me. I know that that's probably not very popular to talk about on a Christian podcast, but it's the truth. And even after I got married, if my husband touched me in bed with his feet anywhere on my body, on my leg, my foot even, I would have to get out of bed and wash where he touched with soap and water. I was that bad. And as a little girl, I was 4 or 5 years old. If when I was laying beside my sister, um, it's not that she was grody dirty. It's just I personally did not like to be touched with skin. And so if she touched me, I couldn't stand it. I would have to wipe it clean and I would put a sheet between us. And I got so bad that I would lay where the pillows went because I would wear a nightgown and I would let her lay her head on my belly. And I was typically her pillow, I guess, technically. So that's how I started just being this kid with so much hang-ups on skin, and it was just gross to me. And then as I began an adult and I started doing massage therapy and fingernails and feet pedicures. When I went to school, I was like, I'm not doing pedicures. And I literally had to rub my mom's feet to even get used to touching feet. And so I look back on those things because as you become a nail tech, you're going to have to touch hands and you're going to have to touch feet. I guess if you start your own business, eventually you don't have to, but at that time I didn't have my own business and I worked in a salon. And then I decided that I was going to do massage therapy. And I had a friend that encouraged me to do massage therapy. And she said, well, if you do that, I'll send you, she was in the medical field. She said, you're really, really good. I think that if you go get your license, I can send you clients that need help and need healing in their body from the massage therapy, what it offers. And I did go to school. I went ahead and did that. I had worked for a chiropractor for many years, and so I had gained a lot of knowledge from the chiropractic field in the body, and it became an interest of mine. So I took the encouragement and I went to school. Now, most of you know, if you're a massage therapist, you're definitely touching skin. And so um, if I look back on all the things that I, as a kid, had hang-ups about, and then I look at the prophecy that I was giving even as a kid, where my mind goes to that is, and I don't give a lot of place to the devil because he only gets the place that you give him, really. And so, but if I look at it, even from a small kid, I can see where um, the devil would use that to deter me from the calling that God has for me. And I will tell you, I lay hands on people every day. Now, I'm not saying that I heal the body heals the body and God heals the body. I 100% know and believe that. But if He uses my hands to facilitate a healing in the body, whether it's from somebody with low back issues or shoulder or whatever, or if somebody sits across from me who is anxious and depressed and having a hard time or going through a struggle, and I'm doing their nails and we're having a one-on-one conversation and they are encouraged by that, I'm honored to do that. But as a kid, I think in my heart and in my mind, I was programmed to believe that this is how healing takes place. But the truth is healing takes place through words, through faith, through laying on of hands, through anointing and cloths, whatever, and if somebody anoints a prayer cloth, it's usually because they're either going to take it home and put it in their pillowcase or on their person, or they're going to give it to a friend or a love family member that they love, a loved one, because it's a point of contact. So if I look back at the prophecy, I truly do lay my hands on people on an almost everyday basis, and they gain some sort of healing, whether it's emotional or physical healing in their body because of the gifting that God has given me. Now, did I have to go in and go to school and study and all of that? I absolutely did. But I know that the plans that He has for me was far beyond my mind, even from a little kid, even into an adult. I have done things that I personally would never have even thought that I would have even have been liking to do. And so He gives you desires, and I believe that. And I believe that He, obviously, it says He'll give you the desires of your heart. But I also know that He has plans for you. And whatever that plan is, if you're doing the right things, in my opinion, which is improving your craft, whatever that is, if it's a musician or a singer, listen, people don't get up on stage and just sing with natural talent without practice. Do people have natural talent? Sure. Entertaining is a little bit different. You've got to learn some of the craft. You could have the best, listen, you can walk down Nashville and there's a good singer on every corner, but they have to have charisma. They have to have things that set them apart in order to make it. Or, maybe they have to know somebody. That's all true. But I do know somebody. I know the King of Kings, and what He's spoken over you will come to pass. So I just reiterate Jeremiah 29:11 again, that says, "For I know the thoughts I have towards you, thoughts of peace and not evil, to give you an expected end." So I encourage you today to go with desires, but also seek Him and find out, maybe He has more for you. Maybe you've got a lot more in you, which I say maybe, but the truth is you've got a lot more in you, I'm sure, than what you give yourself credit for. Because as a human, in our nature, a lot of times we see our shortcomings and we're not really communicating with the Father who knows us above and beyond the shortcomings that we have. Because He's planted in us seeds, and those seeds you can grow. There's a saying that they thought I was they buried me, something like, babe, can you remind me? They thought I was the seed. I was buried, but they forgot that I was the seed. They tried to kill me and bury me, but they forgot that I was a seed. That's right. Thank you. So if we let other people speak into our lives, a lot of times it does a lot of damage. But if we would begin to listen to the throne of the Father, the throne of God, and get the communication from Him through our prayer life, through the Word, through, you can listen to ministers, you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to, sometimes it takes even just my child will be like, now, Mom, or my husband will be like, now, Lisa, that. So I don't always come out with the best of the best thoughts, and I don't always come out with, um, you know, 10 on the chart of 1 through 10 being the most perfect person in the whole wide world and not speaking something that I probably shouldn't let out of my mouth. But I am learning that what I say carries so much weight. And that I hope that you realize that God has plans. He has plans for you. I don't care what it is that you want to do and what you want to be, but I do know this, that you need to be putting your effort towards it, that your time is very important. I mentioned several weeks ago a book called A Weapon Called Time by Dr. Paul Kreitz. Listen, I think that anybody and everybody, I wish that anybody from the age of about 14 years old would read that book, because it has so much in you. And there's a quote in that book that says something to the effect that if you don't want it in you, don't have it in front of you. And so many of us waste time. Like, listen, I know it's easy to get on the phone and all these social media platforms and just spend a lot of time, which in fact is how I'm getting what I'm cooking today, off of social media. And most of the ones I get there, and I don't really know how half the time they're going to turn out, because, well, we practice them together. But and I make it a habit of not really practicing them too much before I get here, or any at all, because, well, you're probably going to practice it the first time too with me, and when you do it, you're going to do it your first time. So I want it to just be real. They can make it look all kinds of ways, and we can make our life look all kinds of ways that's really not the way it is. But if you don't want it in front of you, if you don't want it in you, don't have it in front of you. So I today have made, and I'm going to pull them out of the oven, some bacon twists with cinnamon rolls. So I'm going to show them to the camera, and I'm going to put them back in and let them cook for just a couple more minutes. They're almost completely done, but I just wanted to show you what we're cooking today, because I only kept one out for the sake of time, And I'm going to show you how I did that. And so these look so yummy. And we all know that bacon makes everything yummy, by the way. So really all I did was open up a can right from the store of cinnamon rolls. And I took them out of the can, popped them, and almost scared myself to life. And then I just took it out. This is one of the cinnamon rolls that you would use. And then I just took a slice of bacon. Well, I took several, but in this case, this is a slice of bacon. And so when I do that, I just take this. This is going to be a little bit longer, and I try to just kind of like smush it up and shorten it. And I put the bacon just a little bit short of the top. And then I just take and twist it. This is my first time, so don't, I mean, if you think I'm a professional over here doing it, I'm not. That's about what it looks like. I'm going to twist it one more time. And then I put it on a buttered dish, and it looks kind of like that right there. And then I stuck it in the oven to bake it. So I will cook that one after. And I haven't tasted it, so I don't know. But the particular cinnamon rolls that I had comes with this right here. And of course, I'm going to slather this on top of it. You don't have to. You could save yourself the sugars and you can save yourself the carbs and calories. But, you know, who loves that? Now, truthfully, I don't eat that stuff all the time. But I actually very rarely eat the sweets and stuff like that. But I'm going to do that today just because it sounds yummy. Anyhow, I hope that as you go on through your life, if you're 10 years old listening to this, 5 years old, or 59 years old, or 80 years old, I don't believe that there's ever a time until you are no longer breathing on this earth that you don't have, and I'll even address that in a minute, but even after you're gone, but that you personally, while you're here breathing on this earth, I believe that God can use any space of time, any space of age, listen, they've had little kids on social media platforms with their hands raised and they be a year old and somebody say, oh, this touched my heart. I know sometimes my mom is well over 59 and there's times that I go over there just to draw strength from her because a lot of times she knows me and she knows when I'm having a struggle and she can go in and say, hey, Lisa, I can see it in you today. Are you okay? You know, can I pray for you? And my mom will lay a prayer on me. So I don't really care if you're in your infant stages or in your 80s and 90s in age, or if you're 10 or 20. God can use you at any age. Age does not disqualify you from the calling. And He did not stop having His purpose in you and the thoughts towards you, thoughts of peace and not evil to an expected end, just because you were in your 80s or just because you were a small little kid. So I don't care where you're at today in your age. It's more for me where you're at in your thinking. If you can push yourself beyond your limits, you know, I like to skydive. And if I let everybody talk to me out of skydiving, which maybe I could should have, but I would have robbed myself of an experience because my mother obviously was like, "Oh no, I don't even want to know," you know. And of course, you know, my husband has the ideology that if the plane was on fire, he's taking his chances with the plane. But I like it. I think it's fun. And if I had have let everybody talk me out of it, I would not have enjoyed that experience. So listen, I don't care where you're at in your life as far as, you know, your age, your whatever. You've got a purpose. Live in that purpose. I'm going to take these out and show them to you one more time, and then we'll close. And so, I'm not really sure how to open this. Sorry, I had to step back and get a knife. Obviously not a very sharp knife. And so I'm just going to drizzle this across these. Hopefully they're yummy. Hopefully they didn't get too burnt on the ends, but that's okay. It's the bacon that I wanted the most done anyways. And the inside of them looks really good. And we might as well use it all. And this is our TikTok challenge of twisted cinnamon. So hopefully it's as good. I thank you guys for listening. I hope you have a great day on purpose.